Hi there, this is Mike Thompson and welcome to another installment of Strictly Business. This is a collaboration between OSU and the University of Rio Grande. And with me is co-host Brad Bast. How's it going?
It's going well, Mike. How are you today?
Not too bad.
Good.
Just got through the St. Patrick's Day weekend or whatever. Was a participant in the first annual St. Patty's Day parade in Gallipolis.
Excellent.
I was one of 3 people wearing a nice kilt.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Are there photos?
Yes, there are on my Facebook.
Really? Okay. Well, I guess all the viewers will have to go check those out and kind
Yeah.
of see.
And the thing that surprised me, which I always get whenever I wear a kilt, is it's invariably the next thing people ask, what do you wear under it?
Right.
Well, I don't ask you.
Well, right.
You know.
Was it cold? Was it cold that day?
No.
Okay,
It was very comfortable. But nobody asked me that question, which was somewhat refreshing. Because
Really?
it's just one of those things, which I have lines ready and prepared for
Right.
those.
Well, it must be something you want to talk about because you brought it up.
Yeah. Okay, well, anyway, today we're featuring Craig Lund, the owner of Value Added Business Services. Can you tell
Yeah,
us?
Craig. We asked Craig to come on the show today. Craig has been a client that's worked with our Small Business Development Center there at OSU for a number of years. At one time was a tenant of our Endeavor Center there, and kind of a period of his business that the transition fit the incubator model with his business. So we really enjoyed having him there. But the reason I've asked Craig to come on today, he has a really unique perspective on business and the change that every business owner is faced with throughout, any period of their business ownership. Being an entrepreneur, means you really need to be able to deal with change in your business.
Is this just change in general, or business models?
Change in general, everything. In business models, customers, you name it. Change happens in business.
Right.
And if you're not prepared to deal with and adapt to the change, you're going to fail.
Right.
And Craig has gone through a lot of changes in his business over the past several years, and proud to say he's still sitting here with us. And that means that he can deal with change because, especially over the last 10 years, there's been a lot of change in the economy and a lot of the change in the way business is conducted. And Craig has weathered that storm. And he's got a lot of good information to share with business owners and a lot of thoughts that can help them move forward, deal with that, be successful, and also some thoughts that can help strengthen the local economy that we have here in Southern Ohio.
So how long have you been in business?
We started in January 1st of 1997.
Okay. So I started here at the college in '88, and at that point in time we were teaching people how to use 16 millimeters and slide projectors and mimeograph machines, and I think they may have been still using the carbon paper. I imagine
Yes.
over those years you've seen a lot of different changes in your area.
Well, I have, and even preceding that for 10 years, I was with a national business forms manufacturer, and that entire industry has been decimated. There's just, it's all become digital anymore.
Is that the type of form which, when you write on the first copy, the second copy copies it
Carbon,
without the carbon paper?
carbonless paper.
Right. Yep.
Manufactured primarily up in Chillicothe at the meat plant. It was
Okay.
meat back then. So yes, times have changed dramatically.
So what was the main change that you had to get through with that?
Well, when we started in 97, it was primarily just doing business forms.
Okay.
But over the next 3 to 4 years, the laser printer pretty much destroyed that business nationally.
Do people print their own forms now, or?
They call it email.
Oh, okay.
So they're not, they shouldn't print it, but they still do use a lot of paper in that regard. So in dealing with the customers I had at the time, the change that took place was still to create the efficiencies of the form systems, but then it migrated over to office supplies.
How much did you act as an advisor of sorts at that time, or what are we going to do when we're moving out of this?
Well, the training that I had all along was in systems analysis and creating efficiencies in the business place. So as a customer or somebody in the business, they were changing from one system to another, then we helped guide them through the process. For example, if it were a repair order in a car dealership, then they had to figure out how to print that paper, get it filed, then it become digital and go through that entire process. And we literally took the customer by the hand and walked them through the process.
And then you probably have other change as far as delivery and ordering and communications with people.
Well, to a degree, the communications is very important, and I think it's one of the keys to why you want to do business locally. At least have local representation, because the person who interacts with you, the business, back to the company and to the network of manufacturers and distributors, needs to have that communication so they truly understand what the business needs. Anymore, where there used to be categorical lines between office supplies, printing, janitorial supplies, t-shirt printing, business cards, all that personalized kind of product, that has changed dramatically, where there's no real division between those lines anymore. So a customer has never been trained on what belongs as a pen and pencil belongs in a office supply category, whereas toilet paper doesn't. It's the janitorial category.
Right.
But in today's environment, through the change of distribution and all the plethora of SKUs that are out there, now it all becomes into one really big, huge market basket.
So what do you do in value-added business services? What's your range of products?
We have a basic 3-point program. One is what we call it the custom side. So we still deal with printing, whether it be envelopes, labels, tags, letterhead, stationery, that kind of thing. Imprinted t-shirts, hats, all of that. And then the second leg would be the office supplies, and then the third leg would be the janitorial supplies.
Okay. I think, as a business person, to me, I'd rather write one purchase order and make one order for everything. I guess it's sort of like going to a big box store or something, where I can get a lot of things in one fell swoop, rather than have to go to here and have to go to there and dealing with all these other invoices. I can deal with one person for all of it.
You hit the nail on the head right there. That's a big issue with Craig, and for businesses to understand the time savings and how that can really impact their company. So if you want to share some more on that, I know it's something we've talked about a lot.
Well, in terms of Mike, you brought up as far as one of the changes that is out there right now, the internet has caused everybody to be able to get price very easily. But what's happened is that the efficiency of the processes has been destroyed. And so now there's chaos all over the place. Controllers today are looking for ways to be able to control the spend, because they're unable to keep a handle on it anymore. So when we go in there, and we've done this even as recently as 2 weeks ago, started a new customer who had the same problem, and where they had any number of people ordering their office supplies and one person theoretically responsible for it, we went in there and said, if we could make that easier for you, would you benefit from that? And the person responded, you would do that? So this is like an unheard service that you can't get on the internet. We're going to go in there and take inventory and keep track of their high-moving items, because I think it's crazy to have jeopardized your business because you ran out of copy paper. You need not to manage that. You need to manage what your business is all about.
Right.
So we did it, in one section of the business that was the office supplies. We went to another section of the business that took care of the janitorial supplies, and they had the same situation where they were buying 2 and 3 months of things at a time. The cage that they were kept in couldn't even hold it all. And so one day they'd run out of this, but on the next day they'd have 3 months of that. And so they needed to have a managed program to have some chaos management to all of this.
And it probably helps in a cash flow situation also.
In all ways. I believe a statistics that was released probably 40 years ago from the United States Chamber of Commerce said, for every transaction, it costs you $175 in processing costs. So if you reduce the amount of transactions, the amount of time that you've got to put into that whole process, then you're going to save money even if the product theoretically costs more.
Right. And that's probably another good thing about using a service like yours, which is local. I'm not sure what your area is that you cover. You probably go national or whatever, but is that local customer service and attention to your customer that you can give that a big national chain that you just order off the internet?
Well, it's a combination. We've got a 6,000-foot distribution center, if you will, in Jackson. So we sit near the intersection of 32 and 35, and we can get to anywhere in this marketing area in any direction and within 45 minutes. So if in fact you had one of those items that was critical to you and you somehow ran out, it's conceivable you could get that in an hour.
Okay.
And so to have that backstop, if you will, is, it's nice to have for the customers.
Right.
But we want to teach them and train them, the value of doing business locally and the value of having a person involved with your operation, your business, not only is to help you do business better, to take care of these things that you won't have the time to do properly, but there's also probably some networking opportunities there. So, for example, if you're doing business with a flower shop, with their supplies, there might be somebody you run across in your travels in the selling world that you run across somebody who needs a flower shop.
Right.
It happens a lot in the car business. Oh yeah, I bought a car here, but that's because they were out servicing that dealer at the time, and there was enough of a relationship that there's another benefit of getting business sent their way that they may or may not even know.
That's good. That's good. Well, maybe to back up just a little bit from that, we started out talking about, forms, and now we're talking about all of these different supplies. What's going on here? How'd you get from point A to point B? And what are some of the things that drove that change?
Again, it started, I keep talking about car dealership, but it's kind of where it started, because the customer I was serving at the time had a need for this area in between an office supply dealer and a custom printing type person either side could supply these things. But in this case, they needed to design a filing system for their paperwork. Well, it goes into a specialized kind of filing cabinet. It's the kind of filing cabinet that you'd use in a doctor's office. So you'd have in-tab and be able to get the cabinet, the folders, the labels that go on the folders and do all of that. It took being able to be on the office supply side of the world to supply the customer.
Okay.
So we aggressively sought, and Morning's Office Supply was available at the time because they wanted to retire. And so we sought that relationship, and we're able to bring that to bear to benefit the customer. But we needed a whole host of office supplies at that point then, and then it grew.
Okay.
So now we're all of a sudden being able to offer and have it category expertise in office supplies and printing as well.
Okay.
And the thing with all of these supplies is you have to have some knowledge about all of them. In staplers alone, there's probably 5,000 of them out there. Well, there's got to be some differentiation between that, and I just don't think anybody's got time to figure that out. The truth of the matter is you need 3 staplers. You need one for 2 sheets, and you need one for 20 sheets, and you need one that'll do 100 sheets. But again, unless you know where to look, how to look, who to talk to, we have all the manufacturers that we can bring to the customer as well as to help them through the process.
Okay. So when you purchased Mornings, you not only purchased that company and the ability to supply the supplies, but you also got maybe some knowledgeable staff.
Oh, absolutely. And one of the key things that we were about very much at that time is we wanted to preserve the jobs. This was not go in and take the accounts and decimate everything. That we did not want to do. There's some really good people there. And
It's a small town. That would not be looked at favorably,
I wouldn't think so.
Right.
Right.
Wouldn't think so. Now, the same thing happened when we went with the janitorial supplies because in 2008 we acquired Barco. supplies out of Waverly.
Okay.
And the situation there at the time was the owner had died.
Okay.
So the people there were operating the business without any real leadership, and it was kind of just going on. So we got involved, and again, we were able to save the business, save the jobs. We moved the location itself to consolidate centrally in Jackson so we could serve all our customers from the one distribution point.
Okay.
We were able to save the delivery jobs, which we still have 2 delivery routes today. But again, the janitorial supplies is another one of those things. There's a whole level of expertise that you need to understand with that. You know, what kind of paper towel do you want? When is a roll of toilet paper, when is it this wide, when is it this wide, is it 1 ply, 2 ply? And you've got to go through all of the heartache with that and figure it out in the meantime.
Yeah. Change is big in a lot of companies, and I know one of the biggest complaints that you hear from employees that work in a place is the toilet paper. You know, the toilet paper they stock in the restrooms. Everybody complains. What grade of sandpaper is it? You know,
Right.
and it's
Well, we had a customer, if we're telling stories, that came to us out of frustration because the maintenance people were spending all their time in cleaning up the mess caused by too thin of toilet paper. The kids were either putting half the roll into the toilet, or they were punching holes in it and decorating the side of the stall with it. It wasn't pretty. The maintenance people were spending an untold amount of hours just cleaning it up. We fixed the problem quickly by giving them the right toilet paper. It all went away
and
That's
save the money in the
amazing.
long run.
and saved them money in the long run.
It's amazing that sort of thing can have that kind of impact on you.
It's the little things.
Yeah, it is.
It's the little things.
But the key to it is, and if I had a message that I would give to small business, is that the relationship that you can establish with your customers, to have it be a partnering relationship and not an adversarial one. An adversarial one dictates what's the cheapest, not the best.
Right.
A partnering is, let's look at this problem in a whole and fix the problem rather than continuing to perpetuate it. And if you do that, you're going to do that better because you're here. We live with you. We're going to go to the grocery store with you. We're going to see you in church. Our kids go to school together. We got to live with these problems.
Right.
So if we have a partnering attitude to deal with all of this, then there's going to be a much better chance to grow for everybody.
Right.
And quite frankly, the key to growth, small business, is you got to grow. And when we grow, we create jobs.
And the repeat business.
The repeat
Is key.
The repeat business will create jobs too.
Right.
But I think we can create a lot of jobs in southeastern Ohio.
Now that's not where you started out. What's a little bit of your history as far as the job? You know, I think you were in different types of sales
Oh, this is back
personally.
when I lived with, what was her name, Pebbles on the Flintstones? I don't think floorboards had, cars were in floorboards then.
Right.
But yeah, I do have a sales background, so everything from magazines to cookware to,
Is there something you learned through each of those that brings you to this point, or a common theme that has made any of those successful?
the common theme I think is really more on the business to business kind of transactions. And what I really learned is that people are really great. And if you don't avail yourself of that opportunity to get to know them and find out what their real needs are, then you're going to be left with nothing but price.
Right.
And that's what the world through the internet is trying to shove their way.
Right.
So
And you can get 1 or 2 sales out of price, but you won't get the repeat customers without the service.
but there's ways to give back, because being involved with the SBDC as an advisor to them, I see the same problems and the same things that happen to most of small business. You get hunkered down because the big guys are invading constantly, and unless you've got a relationship that only you can do, you're
Right.
the only one who'll ever have that relationship, and that's what will hold you through the end of the day.
So you started out in your business incubator, is that right?
Yes, started out, well, sort of. You eventually evolved. Maybe tell a little bit about how you started out with your company and then the business incubator became a home for you in part of that transition period until you really were set and stabilized and to move on to a bigger facility.
It did at the time when Jerry was there. But what really started this was Dan Rogers, who was the general manager for USEC at the Piketon plant. And in the Chamber of Commerce meeting, he said to us that we want to do business with businesses that are located here. So I listened to his words, and we got together with Jerry, and we moved into the Endeavor Center. And our business with the atomic plant has flourished because of that, because we were right there to meet their needs firsthand and solve some of these problems that they were dealing with on an everyday basis. And there were some unique things that we did there too. But the bottom line is none of those things could have been done unless that relationship had been established.
So from that time, you have moved out, and you're not part of the Endeavor Center, or?
The Endeavor Center has gone through changes itself. I mean, the primary 2 or 3 of us that were there, I think maybe only one is left now.
Right.
But the other one's gone on to great things too, Steve Moore. But yeah, the purpose of that we filled in the center was no longer really needed to be there. And we had gone through our term of life, so to speak, as far as the incubator life.
Right.
And then we really did consolidate down to Jackson. We had retail stores in Chillicothe. We had a retail store in Portsmouth. Once upon a time, there was a retail store in Gallipolis.
Right.
We had a retail store in Charleston, Dunbar. And what we found is that through the change of the times, there was no longer a retail viability to the supplies business. So we really had to consolidate all those and close those down and bring them all into here. So again, to be able to service our customers however they want to be serviced. Do they want to do it by e-commerce? They can. If they want to do a phone call, they can. If they want to stop in, they can. If they want to have a salesperson call on them, they can. If they want to fax it in, we don't really differentiate. It's whatever they want is what we're going to do.
Right.
Okay.
But a part of that whole process was, learning the business, adapting to the different marketplace that you were in and how business has evolved over the last 15 to 20 years.
And
And adapting to that change.
they continue to change.
And it continues to change on a daily basis.
I think the saying goes that the mother, or innovation or invention is the mother of need. So once the need is identified, then you can innovate. But there is no way that you're going to be able to do that unless you're there with the customer, identifying those needs, thinking outside the box, and bringing in some creative solutions to those.
What do you see as your challenges going down the road in the next 5 or 10 years?
To continue to do this, to continue a legacy with this style of business that can go on for many years to come. I feel a responsibility for the people that work with value added. I feel a responsibility for the customers that we have, and I want to help keep them in business as well as ourselves too. So there's an awful lot of education I think that's got to be done. I think because since 2008 when the economy tanked, that we were doing everything we could to survive, and the people who are left need kudos for being able to do that. So, but times have changed again, so it's not all about price anymore. Now that we really understand that it's more about process, because that's where the biggest opportunities to save money for everybody is.
Right.
Well, and as we were talking a little while ago, on the subject of change, when you really get to the point where your company's feeling the need and feeling that pain to make a change, it's probably too late. You've got to be looking for those subtle signs to keep up with that curve, to keep ahead of it, and be ready and not afraid to make that change. When maybe change doesn't need to be made yet, but you've got to be proactive.
Sometimes you have to blow it up
Yeah.
to make it all work. There's stories. One notable one I can think of is Blockbuster Video. A few years ago, had an opportunity to buy this young upstart called Netflix, and they said to themselves, "Well, our business model is so successful, we don't think it's ever going to change, so we're going to pass on Netflix." So There is no
That was
Blockbuster anymore.
Suicide there. Yeah, first when I've been to the National Association Broadcasters Convention, and making that jump in your head is sort of a large leap, and the paradigm shift of how do you mean, I've been in broadcasting for a long time, and, we just basically put on shows and you watch it when it comes over the transmitter. And now you're telling me I can dial up and I can start this show at any time that I want, and of thousands of shows? How's that going to work, So, but now we're all used to it, and it's one of our demands that, well, I don't want to watch it now, I want to watch it then.
Right.
So it's all about doing what people, I guess.
So I see our role in this as helping be a facilitator for our customers. That there needs to be an understanding between the C-level people, the CFOs, the controllers, and the people actually executing what needs to be done as far as the purchases and acquisitions and those kinds of things. And if we can get in and help that communication up and down within the company, then we all stand a better chance.
What would be your biggest, thing for advice? So we only have a few more minutes left. For businesses that have been there for a while or just starting up, of being successful?
It's to talk to somebody. It's to communicate. It's talk within themselves and talk outside of themselves. And again, because I know the success that we've had being an innovator from the outside, how we can look at things. Sometimes, as they say, you get too close to the forest to see the trees.
Right.
So
You're too busy doing your work right here that you're missing all the change, right?
right now, we've got to focus on growth. The growth, particularly in southeastern Ohio, if we grow, we create jobs. We create jobs, we create a stronger community. And that's going to be good for everybody. Everybody. So regardless of the size of your business, small or large, I would encourage anybody to have that conversation to find out and establish those relationships with locally based companies that can help you get through these times and innovate.
Yeah.
Right.
Sales and business, it's all about relationships, and
Totally.
it's not like here's a product, that's a price, and that's it. No, it's about building relationships and I don't know, just the person to person.
It's
things that you
a
can do.
long-term solution. The short term is get on the internet, find a price. The
Right.
long term is have the courage to build a relationship and trust.
Yeah, it's the confidence in just having that relationship with somebody that you know as a business partner, and it's comforting. It gives you a peace of mind and
Yeah, I
maybe
know
a
somebody's got my
second set
back,
of ears,
I
right?
guess.
Yeah, exactly.
If I ran out of something or need something done, I know that I can pick up my phone and
Make a
That
phone
guy-
call to somebody who knows the answer.
right, and
It's
he
about
knows my
having that
business.
resource
and-
base. Yep.
And you can concentrate on what your business does, not taking care of the supply side of things.
Let the expert take care of it.
Right. So, do we know who's going to be on next time?
I don't think we know for sure yet.
We don't know. Okay,
Yeah.
I wasn't sure.
We've got some folks in the queue, but we just need to confirm with them.
Okay, just have to tie him up and drag him back.
Oh, that's
over
right.
here.
We will do that.
So in a half an hour at 3, we're going to have Voice of Grande, and we're going to have the 2 deans for the college or the University of Grande here talking about AQUIP, and I can't remember what the other thing is, but that might be an interesting show to watch coming up at 3 on Channel 17 here. Thanks for coming on,
You're welcome.
Mr.
Thank you
Lund,
very much, Craig.
and sharing your expertise and your ideas and advice for success. So, anything else?
That's it. Really
Okay.
appreciate you coming on.
Oh, you're welcome. I was really glad to be here and share the ideas.
Okay. Well, thanks for watching another installment of Strictly Business, and we'll see you in next month. And thanks for watching.